United States Marine Corps, served in Vietnam. Glenn Miller. Glenn, I think is this your first time?
No.
No, Glenn's been here before?
Yes.
About 3 times.
Yeah, Glenn's was in the United States Air Force, correct?
Correct.
Bonnie Hughes, United States Marine Corps. Kenneth Long. Kenneth, is this your first time here?
Yeah.
Kenneth was in the United States Army. Mr. Killian, United States Air Force. James has been with us a few times. And Mr. Tony Parada.
Yes.
I'm glad to meet you. This is your first time coming to Ponaganset.
It is, yes.
A Purple Heart veteran. How old are you, Mr. Parada?
I'm 95.
95. God bless you. You look good.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ritchie. Those of you that knew Mr. Perazzo from the middle school, Mr. Ritchie was a teacher in Johnston and had Mr. Perazzo in class. Said Mr. Perazzo was a little bit of a handful. Welcome to Ponaganset, gentlemen. We like to have our students hear your stories and just basically about what you did while you were in the service. Ricky, we'll start with you. Ricky is also a retired state police lieutenant after 25 years.
Good morning, class. 19 years old during the big buildup in Vietnam. 1965, I was drafted. I was just 19, actually. It was the biggest draft month of the Vietnam War. It was October 1965. 50,000 boys/men were drafted. I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey for basic training. And after basic training, I went on to military police school in Georgia. From there, I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, where I was in field training, jungle training with 3 other military police companies. My company was selected to go to Vietnam. The others went to Southeast Asia. We boarded a troop carrier on August 18th, 1966. And it took 24 days by troop carrier for my company. They were shipping Army companies by troop carrier. Marine companies were being flown to Vietnam. When I got to Vietnam, there were 200,000 personnel on the combat military. On the ground, by the time I left 19 months later, there were over 500,000. Anyway, 24 days later, traveling about 22 knots on a troop carrier. We slept 5 men high, head to foot, 3-foot aisle, head to foot, 5 men high. We had a whole company in one compartment. It was like kind of
Like sardines, Ricky.
you couldn't wait to actually, get your feet on the ground in Vietnam. Because once you get to into Southeast Asia, it was very, very hot and humid. Of course, there's no air conditioning in those compartments. Anyway, once we arrived in Vung Tau, Vietnam, they decided all that training was for naught. The Army wanted a military police company in Saigon, Vietnam. So I was stationed in Saigon, Vietnam as a military police officer. I was detached from the battalion, and I worked out of the Vietnamese National Police Headquarters. I had pretty good duty, so as a result of it, I extended for 6 more months, which was a mistake. Because January 31st, 1968, I had only a couple more months to do. A month was the Tet Offensive. The Tet Offensive, Tet meaning the Chinese New Year, Vietnamese New Year. And at that, supposedly, the North Vietnamese and South Vietnamese were supposed to have a truce on that holiday. But the North Vietnamese decided they were going to have all-out country attack on that day. A lot of South Vietnamese army and police officers, and they were all on vacation, basically. Well, so what happened was my company suffered the most casualties. I had 1/4 of my company that was killed in the Tet Offensive. The 1st platoon, I was in the 2nd platoon. 1st platoon was ambushed. 17 military police officers were killed. 8 were wounded. The battle continued throughout South Vietnam for 2 to 3 weeks. We had to call for reinforcements with choppers and tanks to clear the city from the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese. So, I could go on and on and on, but I'm not. What I would like you to do, though, if you take this down, Google 716th Military Police Battalion, 716 MT Battalion. We're the most decorated in the United States, in the world, actually. And you can read our history and everything about Vietnam.
But I would just like to read
a couple of things about our veteran creed. Pay attention to, is the 8-point Veterans Creed. 1, I am an American veteran. 2, I proudly served my country. 3, I lived the value I learned in the military. 4, I continue to serve my community, my country, and my fellow American veterans. I maintain my physical and mental discipline. I continue to lead and improve. I make a difference. And lastly, I honor and remember my fallen comrades. After I left the military, I got on the state police right away. I became a state trooper. I was in uniform for 5 years in uniform, and then I transferred into detectives. And I was a detective lieutenant when I retired, and I was in charge of crime scene unit operations, and I ran the lie detector for 14 years, so don't lie to me. Just kidding.
Can I make a copy of this? I'll give it right back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Killian,
Me? You want me to tell?
United States Air Force.
United States Air Force. Well, yeah, I'm okay. I was just watching out for the dog. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force. I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. I was a kid. I was lucky to make it out of there. I was lucky to serve anywhere. I was like 9 years old before President Kennedy got shot, when I remembered him saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." And I remember that because President Kennedy signed into law open housing legislation. That meant I wouldn't have to live in a segregated label anymore. And that meant a lot to me. I grew up getting chased by the police, getting shot at, and was scared most of the time. Most of my friends were dead by police, dead by drugs, dead by shootings. I had to decide what I wanted to do. All my friends, I looked around, half of them had gone to jail that year. I looked around and said, oh, not a very good idea. Gotta find some new friends. So I signed up for the Air Force. I got lucky.
How old were you, James, when you
I was
signed?
17 when I signed up.
Yeah.
I was 18 when I got down to Blackwood. I was scared. My mother told me, just go ahead and go on and go into the... I come from a military family, though. I want you to understand that. My grandfather served. He was in the Army. My great uncle, the one I'm named after, he was in the Army. My father, he was in the Navy. All his brothers and stuff, they were in the Navy. My brother, my oldest brother, he was in the Marines, and my baby brother and baby sister, they were all in the Army. That's a little military family. But my personal thing is I was trying to get away from something horrid. You don't live that kind of life because you don't see that as much as it was back then. Because I was raised on the brink of social change. During the 60s and the 70s, that's when everything was starting to change. I signed up, I went into the Air Force. I volunteered for Vietnam because I figured, what the hell, I already been shot at. I ain't got to be scared about that. But why always being there to run to some of the roughest places you could go, jump fences, sleep, deal with dogs, getting chased by dogs. I really wasn't, I said, well, the Air Force, what the hell, I'll just give it a shot. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It changed out to be a lot different. It helped change me. Helped me realize that I had to grow a lot more. And I was out there, I met a lot of people from all over the country. That was the first thing I had to realize was they had a bunch of people from all over the country, different walks, different aspects of life, threw us all together and said, now we're all a unit. How y'all want to survive? Are y'all going to take care of each other? I know this guy's here, he's from Florida. He don't like black folks. This guy here, he's from Chicago. He don't like white folks. What are you going to do? We gotta blend together. Why? Because we're supposed to go out there and fight together as a unit. Anybody second guessing anything, everybody could get killed. So that's what we learned to do. We had to deal with it. Like he said, he went over there at 19. They started. Everybody knows that when you're 19 in Vietnam, you start fighting from the time you get there to the time you leave. My brother had been there when I went in 72. My brother had already been there. He said he was lucky to make it out alive. He said he seen a lot of his friends that didn't make it out alive. So I said, all right, I'm volunteering. He said, no, you shouldn't go. I said, I have to volunteer. Because like I said, that's not what your country can do for you. That's what you can do for your country. So I stood up with a little bit of pride. And I volunteered. They sent me to North Dakota, though. I had to fight the Cold War. If any of you ever go to North Dakota, bring a lot of heat wars.
James, can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
You were not drafted, you joined.
I joined.
If you were a 19-year-old young male today, would you join again?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You can hear the pride in your voice.
It's my country, right or wrong, even with Trump in office. I do it. I don't care. My country, right or wrong. That's what I hope you all understand. This is our country. Can't let nobody come over here and take it. And that's what the military is. It's supposed to be a strong arm law that says, oh, don't think about it. Don't come over here thinking that you're going to have an easy time. No, it's not like that at all.
Thank you very much, James. Glenn. Glenn's been with us before.
Good evening, good morning. Yeah, I'm Glenn Miller. I'm also a veteran of the United States Air Force. I'm also a Vietnam era veteran myself. But unlike James, I was born in the Deep South where I had segregation. And I didn't volunteer. I was put in the military. I wasn't drafted, but I was put in by a judge. Either that, go to the military, or go to jail. So I chose the military. And at that time, I had two brothers already in the Navy. That's why I wound up here in Rhode Island, where I met my wife. While I was in the Air Force, I went to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, of course, and my job in the military was I was munitions maintenance, which is I loaded the bombs and took care of the guns on the aircraft. I wanted to make it a career, but I had an accident while in the military where it affected my sight. So I had to come out on a medical discharge. Coming out on that medical discharge, I came back to Rhode Island, married my wife. I worked with the Newport School Department. And I worked there until I was again forced to retire behind my eyesight. So I've been like this maybe 25, 30 years. So this is my normal. This is my best friend, Verdi, which is a Belgian Shepherd. I've had her for 2 years now, and I tell you that she's a godsend with the help of Adele. Now, as far as the military and what your future holds, it's up to you. James was asked would he go in again. Well, the judge did me a big favor. I would take it in a minute. I would go in a minute if they would let me. Because every morning, living in Newport in Middletown, we have the naval base over there. And every morning, they play the taps. And it just does something to me. I stop whatever I'm doing and I listen. But when they're raising that flag, and in the evening, I do the same thing. It's just something, it made me grow up. It made me respect myself, the military did. It made me respect others. Like I said, I grew up in the Deep South where there was segregation. I didn't deal with Caucasians. Never seen one, never had to deal with them until I went into the military and learned to work with people. So at that point, I did no longer see color. In the Air Force, we wore blue. So that's all I saw, blue. You know, so it didn't matter whether you was from Chicago, New York, Mississippi, or whatever. We had to hang together, stick together, because I got your back and you got my back. And the only way we're gonna survive, like James said, we got to mash and pull together. And all the Gone Powells and all the Beetle Bradleys that didn't wanna do right, well, we took them aside and we straightened them out. We straightened them out because no man got left behind, regardless of his race, creed, or color, or religion. No man got left behind, because we are all Americans. And that was the only thing that counted. We are all Americans, and we are all brothers here. And some of my friends, I still keep in touch with them from way back in the day. Pick up the phone, hey man, how you doing? How you doing? You know, how's your health? How's your family? Yeah, you remember when? Yeah, you know. But you don't have a lot of veterans from Vietnam talking about Vietnam, because it was a terrible experience. It was a very terrible experience. I mean, going in as teenagers, you know, you think you got gangs now. I wish they would take all these gangbangers and send them somewhere where it really counts, and see how tough they are then, you know. So, any of you got minds or want to wear these colors, the best color you can wear is red, white, and blue. That's the best color in the world that you can wear, you know. So, what I want you young people to do, stick to your studies, reach your goal. I mean, you can't reach it all at one time, but step by step, reach your goals. Education is the most important thing, because without education, you're going to wind up in jail, on drugs, in the projects, you know. So now is the time to set your goals and to keep your life straight, because just one mistake that you would make would take you a lifetime to straighten out. So please, stay in school, try to do the right thing, you know, and be proud of yourselves and your families. All right?
Thank you, Glenn. Good advice, Glenn. Glenn, how long have you had the dog?
We've been together now 2 years.
And she stays with you
24/7.
24/7.
24/7, my best buddy.
That's awesome. How long, when they introduce the dog to you, how long does that process take before they know if the dog and you are gonna be compatible?
Well, it's a pretty lengthy process. They had to do psych evaluations on my lifestyle and what I wanted to do and whatnot. I had to do physical things to make sure that I'm able to handle the dog.
Right.
And then I had to be trained for her. She was already trained.
Right.
So I had to be trained for her for all her little quirks and what's not. Like when she has to go to the bathroom, she'll let me know. It's been several times she has saved my life. For a simple reason, of just going across the street, I'd be ready to go, and she like, no, you're not. Or I'm in the middle of a crosswalk, a car would go in front of me or come around and go behind me. She would alert me, and she will pull me out of the way, and she has done that several times. So, you know.
It's unbelievable. It is.
Even coming in here, I would tell her, can I use one of your students for a minute?
Sure.
Can I-
Aiden, stand up.
What I want you to do, get in front of me. Now, turn around, get in front of me. Watch this. Now, just walk anywhere you want to walk. Follow, girl. Vertical, follow. Follow. Follow, girl. Follow.
That's a dog.
Follow, girl. You can go back to your seat, she'll take me right back. Follow, girl, roundabout, follow. Follow. Good girl. Follow. 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 Find the chair, girl. Find the chair. Good girl.
It's incredible. That's your eyes.
These are my eyes. She is my eyes, yes.
Tell me again where you were from.
I'm from Augusta, Georgia, originally from Augusta, Georgia, and
You never lost that accent, though.
no, but I had two brothers in the Navy that was stationed up here, and before I went to Vietnam, I came to visit them, and that's where I met my bride.
All right.
So, yeah.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Bonnie,
Yes,
United States, I want to say Marine Corps.
yes, that's correct.
Pal's been at the middle school with us.
Yes.
Tell him about your military service, how you joined, and were you drafted?
No, I had joined in November of '62.
Really?
Went to Paris Island, and that's where began a whole new world. That's where I learned discipline. And you learn to react without thinking. Someone would give you an order, and you would do it automatically. You would not stand and think about, should I do this or should I do that? You just have to think about it, and you're dead. You're taught to react without thinking. But Paris Island, I got there, and the first thing, we were there about a month, and then I got 30 days of mess duty. And they said everyone, E3 and below gets 30 days a year. I got 30 days there, I went to advanced infantry training, I got 30 days there, and then I went to my service station, I got 30 days, I had 90 days of mess duty in less than a year. But it was very interesting though, the mess duty, working with the people, and the different things you do in the service. It's good. I did a couple Caribbean cruises. We just cruised the Caribbean. Went to Spain once as a med cruise, and then I went to Vietnam in I believe it was February of '65. When I went there, there was less than 10,000 there. I was in I Corps. They flew us from North Carolina to California. We stayed at Treasure Island for a day. And from Treasure Island, we boarded the plane, flew to Seattle, flew to Juneau, flew to Tokyo, flew to Okinawa, and our last stop was Da Nang. And that took, a couple of days, a few days. Well, what I found was amazing, that we got on this, the airplane, and they served us breakfast. And then we were flying out of Anchorage, and they said, well, it's breakfast time. We had breakfast. I had 3 breakfasts on that flight over.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Bonnie, you originally from Rhode Island?
No, I'm from Hopkinton, Massachusetts.
That's close enough.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's where they start the marathon.
That's where the marathon starts, yeah.
Yeah, we lived right next to the Browns. I knew Tom Brown. Walter's the one who started the BAA marathon. But that's a getting away from the story there now. But the military taught me what you want to make out of it also. It's, you meet a lot of good friends, you go to a lot of nice places. And overall, I'm glad that I went in the military. I'm glad I went to the Marine Corps. I don't think the other branches probably could have straightened me out, because I was going on the wild side. And when I joined, the Hopkinton police chief helped. And I was going to go in the Army. He said, oh, you're not going in the Army, you're going in the Marine Corps. And that's why I went in the Marine Corps.
Bonnie, how long have you had Pal?
I'll have 9 years in January 5th. Be 9 years. And Pal will be 11 February 26th.
He's a good boy.
He is a very good boy. He's getting a little old now, though. But he's a good dog. I think first thing you want to do is get as much education as you can. When you go into the military, they'll provide you money for education. I know I used it. I went back to school in 1988. I was in my 40s, I think, somewhere around there.
The GI Bill.
You write the GI Bill. I went there and I got a associate's degree in computers. Yeah, that was in 88, 89, 90. This was in Minnesota. But it was good. The military, you know, it's okay, but, you know, get as much education as you can, first of all. Use the military as something to back yourself up. You know, you have the military, and from what I understand now, they pay pretty good. You know, I guess you get,
Get incentives, that they do.
Yeah, I
They're
think-
signing bonuses.
I think you get like 1,000. When I went in, I think we got $76 a month, something like that. Wasn't much, you know, but then you didn't need much, I guess. But anyways,
Bonnie, would you join again, Bonnie, if you were a young fella?
yes, I would. Just to get the discipline. That's what I found was so important for me, is the discipline. Because I didn't have any discipline before I joined. You know, I thought I did, but I didn't.
Thanks, Bonnie, thank you. Mr. Ritchie,
Yes,
United States Navy.
US Navy, proud of it. Best thing I ever did. Well, my background, I taught school for 35 years, and my teacher was Mr. Parazo. You all know him? Yeah, he was my teacher. I only look old, I'm not young. It was just yesterday, I was sitting where you were. See how old, how fast you get old. So, I was a smart guy. I used to get C's, C minus, as long as I passed, it was good enough. 'Cause I didn't need education, I thought I was really educated. And I joined the Navy, and the recruiter talked me out of it. He says, 1 more year when you graduate. So I waited till I graduated. I said, I'll make a deal with you. I was good at making deals. I said, June 15th, I want to be on the way to boot camp. And he said, that's a deal. This was in February. I was quitting school.
How old were you, Mr. Ritchie?
I was 17. And I needed the discipline. My first morning in Bainbridge, Maryland, the master at arms come around. That's a guy, he's like a cop. Come around with his club, banging all the bunks. Get up, get up. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, hey, buddy, my mother kisses me good morning. Well, he come over and kissed me, all right. He got the bunk and flipped me right out of it. That was the first thing I learned, not to be a big mouth. And that's what you need. So after that, I shaped up very nicely. And I was on 5 ships for my 4 years of the Navy. And I was on an LSM, it's a landing ship. We took the Marines and the ducks, we did the beach with them. And during the war, they were made for a one-way trip because they get blown out of the water. And I didn't like this ship, I wanted to get off. We come back from Argentia, Newfoundland. We're on exercises with demo and torpedoes. They chase the sound in the water, like sonar. And you had to kill the engine, everything dead when you dumped them. It was battery operated, it would chase the target and blow it out of the water. So the torpedoes. On the way back, we ended up in about 100 miles off of England in the North Atlantic hurricane. And let me tell you, it was rough. You know, the thing was flat bottom, had the bow door opened up, and it used to go 14 knots. We were doing 22. And it was like, you know what a Mazzoli oil can looks like? Tin can? Nobody knows that?
Of course they do, yeah, gallon container.
Gallon, yeah, metal container. On this ship, that's what it was like. We'd come up out of the water and come down, slap it down. And boom, the sides would buckle. And they were following us, the Coast Guard were following us. We want to abandon ship because it was breaking up. We had a fire, the gyro compass went out. And when we got back, in port down in Norfolk. Little Creek, Virginia was the amphibious base. Down in the bilges chipping, we had to clean the bilges, and I put the hammer right through the side, put a hole in it. So I got my division officer, there's a hole in the side, I just went right through. He's, did you do that purposely? He blamed me because I wanted to get off the ship. I tried to join up with the frogmen. They were frogmen at the time. Now they're
Seals.
SEALs, Navy SEALs. And my captain wouldn't let me go. He disapproved it. He said, you do anything to get off here. He said, son, you ain't gonna get off this ship until the day you get discharged. Wow, that scared the heck out of me. Because I wanted off. It didn't do any good traveling, you know. There was only 50 guys on this ship. And it was a good crew, but I just wanted more activity. And I ended up from a deck force, boatswain. I studied to be a seaman. And I said, I'm getting off this deck force. I studied, carried that book in my back pocket. I studied for an electrician. Well, I used to waive the test in front of my captain and my executive officer. Sir, another 4-0, another 4-0, and they laugh at me. Well, you tell me I can't do something, and I'm like the United States Steel. I'm gonna push until I get what I want. And I kept studying and studying. I got my fireman stripes, switched to the engine room, I got my electrician's rating, and went up the ranks. Well, I got the second class petty officer, but I still have my books that I studied all the way to chief. If I stayed in, I had everything done, laid out for me. I learned to study. And what you study goes in your brain. It's one thing in your life nobody can take away. They can take your eyesight, they can make you a cripple, but they can't take that education. So that's the only thing you've got that's yours. Everything else is taxed. Okay? So I got off that LSM after I put the hole inside. They're blaming me for doing it, but Washington came down, inspected it, to go to the scrapyard. Well, went down, put it in mothballs, and I went to an APA, a Latimer, USS Latimer. And that was a good seagoing ship. Guys kind of all crazy guys. But they were a good crew. We stuck together. They were like real brothers. And we used to take Marines. We'd pick them up at Camp Lejeune. We were taxi cab for the Marine Corps. And we drive them all over where they had to go. And like Rick said, they were 5 high. And they got stinky in those compartments. I remember sleeping out in a gun tub many times just to be outside in fresh air. And that was an APA. And I used to feel bad for the Marines climbing down the nets. Some of them fell and didn't make it. And the small boats, the LCVPs, LCMs, they would be coming up with the water, the waves, they'd bounce up, and the guy would be going down and think he's gonna get crushed, which he could. And we lost guys, just transferred them. And we go on maneuvers, we hit the beach, and the Marines would jump off. If we hit a sandbar, they were going in the water. Okay, maybe up to their neck, don't know. And then we spent maybe 4 or 5 days out there in them small boats bouncing around. And that was the Latimer. Went to Texas, we put it in mothballs. Made razor blades. That was a good ship, a good crew, and all disciplined guys. Real top notch. They transferred me and went to the Arnhem, USS Arnhem. And they were going to the South Pole, and I really didn't want to go. I'm glad I did, because my compartment got smashed with an iceberg, went right through. But the day they were leaving, I got transferred. I swapped with another electrician on the USS Intrepid, an aircraft carrier, which is a up in New York, a museum.
Yep.
If you ever go to New York, you ought to go see it. And another good place is Fall River, the Battleship, Massachusetts, and they got some subs. It's a real nice display. And the old ships to the new ships, there's a big difference. And so I ended up on the Intrepid, and I served there. It was a beautiful ship. I loved that duty. It was big. It had a lot of liberty. I was an electrician, and I was like, I used to tell people I was an admiral. You know why? If I wanted paint, I got paint. If I wanted my clothes pressed, I go down to Marine Barracks, say, hey, you press these guys? Yeah, all right. They didn't press them. I take the fans off their bunk. I do something to them. You know, and one time they had a kid in the brig, and they were so all nasty things to him. They'd exercise him on the flight deck. They were crucifying this kid. And maybe he deserved it, but he didn't deserve when you start talking about your mother and stuff like that. So I went down and I took a whole bunch of fans off their bunks. The guy, what are you doing? I gotta check these out. Oh, you gotta do them all at once? Yeah, I gotta do them. That was their punishment. And I said, really roughing that guy up. I said, we don't like it. The whole division, we're talking about it. So we'll take care of that. And give us our fans back, and there'll be no problems.
They got the message.
Yeah, it was like a code. You talk us messages. So anything I wanted, if I come back late, I go down to the kitchen, I want a piece of steak and eggs. 2 o'clock in the morning, the cook wouldn't give it. He swore at me to get out. Yes, sir. I got my tags, went and tagged the switches, shut off the ventilation. It's damn hot when you're cooking down in them ships. So next day, my division officer says, hey, what are you doing with that? You punishing these guys or something? I said, I gotta check the circuit. He said, get it going. I said, if you wanna pull the tag, go ahead. He said, do what you gotta do. And he walked away. He knew enough not to bother me, my division officer. So the next day I go to breakfast. This guy's telling me, hey, Richie, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just got out of bed. You come in, I was just nasty. I really apologize. He says, anytime you come in, go help yourself in the reefer. Get your food and cook it up. I said, okay. By the way, right as soon as I finish eating, I'm going to get that circuit straightened out. I put my hand on it.
He got the message.
Yeah, we pass a lot of word though. But either you got power, you read. It's powerful. And so the Intrepid, after that I went to the USS Saipan and put that in mothballs. I was getting good at putting these ships to bed. Now they're razor blades. But I love the Navy. I do it over again. The only thing, I would study more. And I'm gonna tell you, you all think you're pretty smart until you go in the Navy or Army, the Marines, whatever. And you think you're tough, you're smart, but you meet people from all west that have been pushing cattle around. So they push you like you're nothing. They pick you up with one hand. So you realize, hey, I'm not so tough. There's some tougher people there. And the education, the more education you get here, you may think it's a waste of time. It's really valuable. And if you were going to be an officer in the military, you want to know your history, your philosophy. You want to know how I think. You know, to beat me, you've got to know my mind. Be ahead of me. And that's what we do fighting in wars. It's all logistics. So, education, education, education. I can't say enough about it. And I know, I was telling some of this, one of the best schools in the state, the best students. I taught here during the winter, like Christmas vacation, myself and this fellow, Mr. Vasella, we'd come up and teach Christmas week, driver ed. And the best kids I've ever had in teaching.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie.
And you deserve that red apple, every one of you. And every year I come to this ceremony, I get upset because I never seen a red apple up here. And they should give it to Mr. Kalender and all your teachers and your students too.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. That means a lot coming from you.
Well, that's from my heart. And don't forget, study. And, you know, when I was in the service, they were throwing guys out, early discharge. You know why? They'd look at your test scores. Here's a dummy, get rid of him. You were below a certain number, they give you early discharge. And now they don't even want you if you're not really smart. You've got to be brilliant today, because everything's electronics. You push a button, and you've got to know which button to push. You know? So it's a different world, different service. All the military, it's almost one branch, actually. No matter if you go in the Army, the Navy, the Marines, you look at all these wars, they're together. My friend stayed in 20 years, he did 7.5 years in Vietnam. He's gone.
That's okay, Mr. Ritchie. That's why we have Reach Across America.
He's dead.
Yeah. A lot of good guys.
He did 20 years.
Yeah, a lot of good guys. How old are you, Mr. Ritchie?
58.
Yeah.
How old? 58 on this leg. 85 on this leg. 85 years old.
God bless you. Kenneth, you're new to the school.
Yes,
You're in the United States Army.
yes. And compared to the rest of these guys,
Yeah?
my service time was boring. I served during Vietnam, but I never went there. I was in supply. I was a supply person and a weapons person. I did 4 years. I was a high school dropout. I enlisted at 17. The best thing I ever did at that point in my life, because I was on a one-way road to nowhere quick. And
Where'd you grow up, Kenneth?
I grew up in Warwick.
All right.
I'm not from Rhode Island, but I'm a Navy brat. My father was a 20-year man.
Okay.
And that's how I got to Rhode Island. He was stationed at Quonset Point with Operation Deep Freeze, which was a Navy support unit for activities in Antarctica.
Yeah.
I enlisted at 17, and I started off at Fort Dix, New Jersey, for basic. Then I went to Fort Lee, Virginia. Then my first duty station was the Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. And there I worked on a scientific technical intelligence team. And what we did there was we collected, tested, stored, maintained foreign weapons from all over the world. And it was pretty much like a research facility. And I was in charge of cataloging, storing, and maintaining a lot of those weapons. And we got them 3 ways. We bought them, we borrowed them, or we stole them. From the Vietnamese, from the Russians, from the Chinese, and most of those weapons were obtained in Vietnam, because that's what the Vietnamese were using from all those different countries. And after that, I went to the land of the frozen chosen, South Korea. And I spent 13 months there. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. I really enjoyed it. And, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I thought about making it a career, but unfortunately, at that time, my future wife, her youngest brother had been killed in the 68 Tet Offensive in Vietnam. So she was totally anti-military. And so I did my 4 years and got out and moved on. But importantly, and everybody has said this, education. I was a high school dropout when I joined the Army. I got my high school diploma while I was in the Army. When I was discharged, I got my college degree thanks to the Army. So again, education, the more education you can get, the better off you are. But a big part of your education is developing your common sense. Because that's going to take you a lot further than anybody can even imagine. Common sense and education. I just can't say enough about it, you know. And I worked for an insurance company for 23 years. I worked for the Attorney General's office for 4 years. And I've worked for the VA now for going on 17 years. So I've been around the block, and every place I've gone, I've learned a lot of important information. You
This
know.
boy over here wants to know, how many guns did you take home?
None,
Oh,
none.
that's a discipline.
None. But I took care of a lot of them. I would say probably thousands over the 4 years I dealt with them. But in South Korea, I was a supply sergeant. And I was the second most well-known person on the base. The first guy was the mess sergeant.
Right. You're gonna get things, you need the supply side.
But if you needed something, you had to be my friend.
That's it.
But, no, only kidding there, but it did help. And, you know, like I said, I've been at the VA for going on 17 years. I lost my sight 12 years ago due to diabetes. And so I spoke to a group like this at the VA for the diabetic support group 1 year. And I said, I'm the poster boy for what you should and should not do if you have diabetes. I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. But without the help of this kind woman behind us, Adele.
Adele's sitting right over here. Adele's,
Adele? Oh, she's
Adele
over
takes,
there?
Adele takes care of you guys.
I thought she was back behind us.
She's
But
our angel.
she's like a godsend to all of us. And she takes very good care of us.
I paid them all to say that.
That's good to know, Adele. Adele's, asks you guys to come up here and speak to the kids, and if Adele recommends you, then you're a qualified person in our eyes to come up and speak to our students.
Well, speaking for myself, I enjoy speaking to young people and trying to give them the best advice I can when I can. And if they don't want it, then I don't,
I get that a lot, don't worry.
I don't push it.
Yeah.
I don't push it.
We get that a lot up here.
But as everybody on this panel here has said, education is the key.
Good. Mr. Prado, we saved you for last.
Can I say one thing before?
Sure, Mr. Ritchie.
I'd like to say, you kids all look healthy, and you gotta take care of your health, that's number one. And most of the people, this blind people here, it's sugar. They have sugar, and that is taking their eyesight away. So you wanna keep your body healthy, work out, stay slim, keep in shape. Okay, that's the best thing you got in your life. I go to the gym every day, as messed up as I am, and I work every machine. It saved my life, actually. I had an operation, it cut my intestine. I pretty near died. Between my wife and family and Adele taking care of me, I pulled through, and only because I was in super shape going to the gym every day. The doctor said I would have died.
That's why you're still here, Mr. Ritchie.
Yeah, So
I
take
go to
care
the
of your
gym
health.
3 days a week, too.
You hear, oh, everybody's doing drugs and everything. You don't need that stuff, believe me. Walk away from those kind of people, stay away from them. And, you know, I'm all for drugs. What I'd like to do is have a big fence and have truckloads of drugs come in, and all those people want it, feed them, and they can't come out until they die. And we'll bury them. And that's about the best thing they can do for them. So take care of your health. That education and health is very important. Okay? You're young enough to stay in shape.
Thanks, Mr. Reds, good advice. Tony, we
Yes.
saved you for last. I noticed you're wearing a combat wounded Purple Heart.
Yes.
Tell the students how old you are.
I'm 95
God bless you.
and maybe 4 or 5 months. I'll have to add that because every day now is a bonus.
Tony, you were in the Army.
I was, yeah,
You from Rhode Island originally?
yes, yes.
Did you get drafted or did you join?
No, I joined. I signed up for the draft
Okay.
when I was 18. You were compelled to in those days.
Correct.
And I finished high school in 1942, and I immediately joined the volunteered
Yeah.
for induction into the Army.
Where'd you go to basic training?
I went to a hellhole. It was Fort Polk,
Oh, God.
Louisiana.
I was stationed there. In a basic training unit.
Yes. So I had 13 weeks of basic training, and then they gave you a couple of weeks of relaxation, and then I volunteered for overseas duty.
Where did you end up when you went overseas?
Well, I went to England, and then on my 20th birthday, prepared to go across the channel to Normandy. I went in on June 10th in the Normandy.
A few days after D-Day.
Yeah. And then I went all the way to France and Germany. And I was wounded in northern France.
How were you wounded, Tony?
You know, being short, I was less of a target, you know. I avoided that for quite a while until the tank, the cannon on the tank, I was trying to take shelter into a barn, and it exploded over my head.
Shrapnel.
And I got a very bad concussion, and I was wounded in the wrist. And a couple of days I went to the hospital. They sent me back the same day.
No kidding.
Yeah, and then a couple of days later, my hand blew up like a balloon because they didn't remove the shrapnel because it was right underneath the vein. So, but then when I got it infected, I had to go back to the hospital and soaking it. It eventually came out with the penicillin and stuff that they had at that time. Excuse me, I got
It's okay.
with the penicillin that penicillin was new at that time. It came out in the 40s, and they used to wake us up to give us an injection every 3 hours. It's not like today where you get a massive dose. So I was in the hospital for a while. Then they sent me back to the front, and I went to in Alsace-Lorraine, in the mountains.
Right, oh yeah.
And unfortunately, I came down with trench foot.
All right.
And
That was bad back then.
it was because they didn't really know
How to treat it.
how to treat it. So they put my foot in hot water,
Oh,
and I passed out.
yeah.
And then I had to have operations on my circulation.
Yeah.
Does everybody here know what trench foot is?
Trench foot, yeah, when your feet get so wet and dirty from the
Well,
climate.
being in a foxhole
Yeah.
with mud, snow, rain, and
Tony, tell the students, when you went to the front lines, describe the front lines.
well, at 18 years old, you're very cocky.
Yeah.
You're gonna knock the heck out of the Germans, and then after a while it becomes reality when you have a few narrow escapes, and then you realize this is for real. Up to then it was like a game.
Did any of your comrades get killed that were close to you?
Yes.
Of course.
I made a stupid remark. A buddy of mine was about 6 feet away, and I says, gee, these Germans are lousy shots. What a stupid thing to say, right? And then I didn't get a reaction from him. So I looked over, he wasn't breathing anymore.
Sure.
Yeah. So then that's when you really know what you're in for, Yeah.
Tony, you joined the Army. Would you join again?
I would. Yes. I'm very proud of my country. And I tell you, the VA has done wonders for me. I have a number of problems. And thanks to Adele also, because I have sight in just one eye, and I'm getting injections in the other one. So every time I go for an injection, it's a fear that I'm going to lose the other one. But Adele has gotten me some of the latest equipment that's helped me a great deal.
Adele, how long you been at the VA now?
32 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
I've been working with the blind for 20 years.
Yeah, Adele does good work. What the common denominator, what we heard today from you guys is not only get a good education, but that you were proud to serve your country, as all veterans are.
Well, I'll tell you, the VA hospital has been a godsend to me because I'm there very, very often.
Our VA in Providence has come a long way.
Yes, it has. I started before it was a hospital. It was a clinic.
That's right.
In 1946 I started. And because I was discharged with PTSD. That's what they call it today, but in those days it was battle fatigue.
Right.
Yeah. So, VA has done a great job for me. I can't say enough good about it.
Tony, where were you when the war ended? Were you still overseas?
I was in a hospital
You were in a hospital. Overseas or back
in England.
in England?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the plane that flew over to take me to England, we were right aside of these buzz bombs. Have you ever heard of the buzz bombs?
The buzz bombs that carry the bombs?
The Germans had these
Missiles.
missiles, kind of the beginning of missiles, I guess,
The V2.
The B-2, yes, that's it. And they used to, they did quite a job on England, with these buzz bombs.
They could fire them from the plane.
No,
They found him from the ground.
From the ground,
They
Yes.
yeah.
fired him from France.
No,
Yeah.
they fired him from Germany, from up the Rhine. They had the B-1 and the B-2. They were rockets.
Yeah.
They
Why
were
do you
the
think they had
beginning
that
of the
distance?
rockets.
Oh, they had
You
it.
could see
Oh,
them.
So lucky they didn't really have it, we'd
Yeah.
have gotten it.
You could see them from the plane, you know, we were on stretchers.
Now, you call them bug bombs because of the noise that they made, right?
Everything we
I
have.
guess the sound that they made traveling through the air. Yeah.
I tell you, does Adele take you guys out for lunch?
Of course she does.
Yeah, that's the best part of the day, she takes you out.
We look forward to that.
But I would say though, anybody that was in the military that went overseas, you know, even though we talk a lot about the United States, when you go overseas, you'll find out people are just people. They are good and bad and all. Unlike the Navy, you travel a lot in the Navy. I think the Navy travel more than anybody as far as the military branches. In the Air Force, you go somewhere, you're gonna be there a couple of years. I mean, I went from Lackland Air Force Base to New Mexico, from New Mexico to Korea, from Korea to Vietnam, from Vietnam back to Thailand, then to Japan. But once you get in these areas, you get to know the people and know the countryside. You'll find out that even though they have different cultures, but they're just basically good people who wants to live and who wants to live free. You know, so, you know, I mean, I know right here we are in our own little vacuum, and I'm gonna tell you now, the United States is the best country in the world. But to get out and to see the world, it's a great experience. It's great, you know, you see all different types of people, cultures, everything. I mean, and you'd be surprised. It's like, wow. I mean, me coming from Georgia, doing segregation, and for me to see all of this, like, it really changed my perspective on life and on people in general. And I believe it made me a better person.
You know what, I noticed about all the veterans that you guys have the dates down pat. If there's some of you guys are talking 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
About 80.
And they stayed with them, so that's, we thank you for coming up and speaking to the kids. We hope that everyone here, Adele knows, for the Reach Across America ceremony, Adele, please, you know, we'll give them all an invitation to come back and see that ceremony. It's our way of saying thank you to the veterans for your service. That's incredible.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for respecting us.
Hey, Tony.
That's a big-
Can I ask you
The
a
best
question?
country in the world.
How much time did you spend in the foxhole?
Tony,
Have you ever
tell them
seen-
what a foxhole was like. These kids have no idea what a foxhole.
And they quit. And what I know also, Tony, is, have you ever seen an atheist in a foxhole?
No,
They pray like hell.
yeah. What was that?
What a foxhole was like when you were in a foxhole.
Yeah, you have to dig a hole in the ground, and the deeper the better. You know, fortunately, I was short, so I didn't have to work as hard.
You're protected, you want to be more protected.
Oh, yeah, then if you had time, you'd try to rip a door off a house to cover it, so you wouldn't get any flak from the sky, you know.
How many guys in a foxhole, average?
Well, as a rule, there was just one,
Yeah.
but sometimes there could be more than one, yeah. And sometimes we had slit trenches. I was a machine gunner, and I had, we would make a slit trench aside of the gun, you know,
Yeah.
and fire it from there.
So you'd have to come out, right?
Yeah, so I had a couple of them blown out. Yeah. Well, good thing I was in the trench was that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then I ended up with a rifle, at the end. Yeah,
Good for you.
yeah.
Tony, thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Janet? Glad you came. Mr. Ritchie?
Yes,
I
thank
told Mr. Perazzo he'd call me right away.
Right.
Hey, pal, Bonnie, can I pet pal?
Oh, sure.
I got a pet pal. Hey, pal. Hey. Glenn, I like your accent.
I'm always keeping.
James?
Come on, girl.
Michael.